Welcome everybody. Welcome HIA crew. Excited to have you guys. We're gonna have a hopefully a fun presentation today. I'd like to think so. I worked on it. So we're gonna talk about quality. We're gonna talk about quality in the intersection of supply chain management, how we can use technology to improve our process, and how we can start to track things from seed to sale. So let's get rolling. Quick question for you. Imagine I got 6 M&Ms. Everybody loves a good chocolate M&M. And 2 of them are the crispy on the outside, chocolatey in the middle M&M. 2 of them are placebos. They don't taste like anything. And 2 of them are going to get you sick. And I mix them up and I put them in my hand and say, which one are you going to take? Probably none of them, right? So in actuality, that's the situation the CBD market is in right now. If we were live, I'd ask you in this test that Leafly ran in November of 2019, which of the 47 products they tested actually had no CBD in them. You might not be surprised that 5 of them, close to 10%. Another 5 had significantly less CBD than what was on the label. 6% had less, or 6 of them had less than 80% of what's on the label, and 7 had more than 120% of what's on the label. So that doesn't even include information on pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals that may be in these products we don't know about. So inherently, it's a problem, right? We have a problem on data immutability, and we have a problem on product provenance, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. A little bit about our history and my history. My name is Joe Whitty. I'm the Vice President of Ecosystems and Partnerships here at Tag One. We are a cloud-based supply chain integration technology. We've made developments specifically for the hemp and CBD market. And essentially what we do is we do one, we help you manage your supply chain operation much more efficiently and effectively and to capture data and analytics, which results in significantly less risk for you. And we'll talk about some of that risk and also help you build trust with customers. A little bit about my background. I've been a technology and services entrepreneur for scary enough close to 20 years. Our co-founders have been doing track and trace technology integration for close to 20 years themselves. They worked at a company called SAP before. I'm also an Army veteran and transportation officer. We've been working a lot with pharmaceutical companies on heavy tech traceability for quite some time. And we wanted to get in the natural product sector. We're just passionate about it. We recognize there's a lot of issues. We've all had family issues with cancer, autoimmune, and some other challenges as well. And we recognize that building provenance, helping companies do things the right way is really, really important. So there's one question we need to continue to ask ourselves and you need to ask your company, which is how will they know, right? So how will customers know what's in your product and is it pure? How will they know that the active ingredient in the bottle is actually the right amount that's in there? How will they know that it's organic if you claim to be it's organic? And that's what we want to talk about. So the first question is, well, who is they? It's not just consumers. When we think about our stakeholders as companies, it also includes the retailers. So organizations like Walmart and Amazon and Whole Foods are continuing to ask more and more questions about, hey, how can you validate what's in your product? Wholesalers, your partners, that regulators, people are going to be doing audits. Investors want to minimize their risk as lawsuits increase. Potential inquirers, influencers, which could be, let's say the president at HIA wants to know, is your company reputable? Are they going to say nice things about you? Or the media. Bottom line, tracking your supply chain and the ingredients that go in there very closely really, really matters. So let's reiterate here, what does this mean for the industry? And what are some of the large impact, high-level components that are connected to and related to supply chain risk? So first of all, we're unable to distinguish quality products from the gas station brands that are concocted in somebody's garage. We can't tell, most consumers can't. And I've actually spoke to people recently that said, man, I'm not buying any products. It sounds pretty cool until I know which ones are safe. So if we don't police ourselves and do a good job of managing our risk, then what's that going to mean for us? One, we're going to have to deal with more regulatory policies. The FDA won't sign off in fully clear CBD. We'll continue to have things like Prop 65, which just showed up in California, which is going to come down on CBD and as well as cannabis also. That means more paperwork, more audits. On the legal risk side, there's already an overabundance of class action lawsuits that are happening on labels claims, on THC claims. We're also dealing with certainly civil lawsuits between two organizations. Somebody makes a promise that's not fulfilled, somebody turns around and sues them. Recall and return is a major issue. We had a great webinar a couple months ago. Some of these average recalls can get up to $200,000 or $1 million if you don't have accurate data on what's in your product and where it went to. All that leads to consumer risk and skepticism, right? And so ultimately doing things right leads to operational complexity. A lot of paperwork, a lot of transactions we need to track, knowing who our suppliers are, collecting all their information, having to share that with all of our buyers. And if we're doing it right, pushing paper around, doing emails makes it very, very difficult to do. So, but there's a reason for that. And that's something I want to dive into on the supply chain as we take a little bit closer look. As we look at the hemp and CBD supply chain, we can understand that it's a little more complex than something, say, like eggs or fruit, right? Eggs, chicken lays an egg. I think you do something to it. You put it in a carton, you send it off, label it, off you go. When we look at the CBD and hemp supply chain, it even starts with the seed, and there's been rampant issues with seeds that aren't what they say they are. How do you verify that? Certainly you have to plant it, cultivate it. Now you have to test for THC throughout the whole process. Then you have to harvest it at the right time, get the biomass, dry it out the right way, conduct extractions. And if you're going to go from crude to distillate or isolate, you're going to mix it with other products to create blends. Get the finished product with CBD. You're going to create an oil, cream, tincture. What other additives are you going to have? Are those as pure as they have? You're going to have an MCT oil or a coconut oil. Where's that come from? Even packaging. I've heard crazy things about packaging or bottles that are from China that may have lead in it that could cause your test to fail after you have a completely natural product. And then it goes to the consumer. So as we look a little bit closer at the data being collected throughout the supply chain, we realize there's a lot of information being transferred or should be transferred from one step to the next. Certainly starting at the farm level. Where is the farm? Is it US based? Is it Colorado based? Where on the farm is it located? Are you having multiple strains or cultivars throughout the process? What is the test information being done? Does it pass the THC levels? Getting into the post-harvesting, hemp processing, final product manufacturing steps to quality control, C of A tests that are done, and ultimately to the end consumer. So ideally, when we're shooting for that seed to sale, track and traceability, capturing and migrating data from one step to the next, even if you're vertically integrated in your own organization, or you need to get it from your supplier and then pass it on to your buyer, it's doable. Doesn't mean it's easy, but it is doable these days. We're going to dive a little bit further into that. But just always remember, we have to address the one question when we're talking to our buyers and to the consumers: how will they know, right? And as we look a little closer, Frank Yanis, the FDA Deputy Commissioner, is continuing to talk more and more about tech traceability in his vision for the future and what they're laying out with FSMA and the next level of food security. And so let's take a little bit closer look at some of those common supply chain operational challenges. First, paper and documentation. Frustrating for all of us. C of A's, even before you get to C of A, because you do a transaction, you should be checking your supplier's certifications. Are they GMP certified? Are they ISO certified? Are they organic? Do you have all their organic information? Are you just going to take their paperwork because it's being issued fraudulently all over the place? Or are you going to go back to the organic certifying body to make sure that it's accurate? A lot of these documentations have expiration dates. So you may have one supplier that has one location that you have documentation for, and in 13 months, forget that it's expired. And so when you get audited and you're ordering your supplies and inventory from an expired supplier, now you're in trouble. So how do you keep track of all that information? We had one client said that for every single lot they capture, they have more than 60 pages of documentation. It's fair to say it's a pain in the neck. Next one is tracking transactions. Transactions go beyond, hey, we ordered something from a supplier and now we showed up here and I'm going to put it on a spreadsheet, or also just track an invoice. Transactions can also include, say, hey, we've got 5 different ingredients in this specific product, and maybe we have sourced those from different suppliers. Now we need to blend those. So if you have 5 different batch numbers or lot numbers and you're going to blend them and create a new lot number on the other side for a new product, sometimes when you say, a supplier says, hey, that one specific lot number, there's an issue with it, we need to recall it, and you have multiple batches from different suppliers, well, when you're saying, wait a second, which lot did that go into? What inventory is it in? So tracking the transactions can get very complex, and we need to do it surgically. And that leads into inventory management. How can you track all your inventory? And it can even go beyond just your active ingredients. It can go to inactive ingredients. It can go to your bottles and stickers and all that kind of stuff. It can get very annoying. Quality assurance. Do you have workflow so that way the procurement person who you're being asked to go out and find new suppliers isn't initiating a transaction or a buy without the quality assurance person's sign off? It happens all the time, right? Next thing you know, you've got inventory, it's being blended, and the quality assurance says, hey, I didn't sign off on this. I didn't go do the diligence. I didn't double check all the paperwork. How do you make sure that people don't throw the gutter ball, per se, into the gutter, and you put the proper rails up to make sure the process is being followed? And then, of course, having a proper recall and return system, making sure that's all set up, and avoiding fragmented systems. So we'll get into that a little bit later. So talking of fragmented systems, something that we do is track these on spreadsheets, put them in accounting systems, put all your documents in Dropbox or Google Drive, because that's what we can do. That's what we've always done. The challenges with these are pretty significant. One, it's hard to tie them together, right? You guys may see a transaction in a spreadsheet, but the Word document or PDF isn't connected to it there. You have to go search and find that as well. You may see the incoming transaction, but you don't necessarily need to know, it won't automatically deduct that transaction from your inventory. You have to go put that in a separate entry. You may go into your accounting system and it may see the invoice, but it's not going to necessarily show, again, what the transaction is, what the certification is. So all these different systems aren't connected, which makes this very difficult, and that leaves it open to different keyed entries along the way, which leads to a higher level of errors, and as well as an inability to capture that data and analytics and tie it all together. And if you don't have accurate data, you don't have proper data integrity, it's hard to know if it's accurate. So by the way, if you're using this, large enterprises use these systems. That's what we have. So good for you. But now what we're going to talk about is how can we expand upon that and let people know that the systems you're using are accurate, right? That the CFAs are not expired, that you have approved suppliers, that you're using GMPs and best practices, that you've got a recall and return system that's surgical and fast, and a recall may cost you $10,000, not $250,000. All your products are not expired, and you've got accurate data. So one way to do this, and we're going to get into a higher level technology sector, is using blockchain. So real quick, high level, what is blockchain? By the way, I'm not a tech guy, so if somebody wants to get into heavy data questions, I'll point you to the right person. But in essence, think of it as an immutable database, right? The analogy I like to give is you've got a Word document, and anytime you make a change on that, it's going to be a permanent redlined change on there. In essence, you could take data. It could be one word. It could be pages and pages. It could be a document. You push that data to a third-party technology system. It's going to create a 64 character code, often numeric, all random, associated with that data. And if you change any piece of that data, you add a space bar, you add a period, that code will change. In essence, it's creating a fingerprint for a piece of code. Now, what that does is it secures the data, and people will know that it has been altered or changed in any capacity. So there's a couple misconceptions. One, that blockchain is always with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is just an application. It's more of a cryptocurrency use of blockchain. The other one is all blockchain is public. Hey, if we put this on the blockchain, that the whole world can see it. That's not true. Our platform is a private blockchain. It's for enterprises. So whatever data you put in there, you control. It's just going to make it immutable, very helpful for any internal issues or audits or any discussions with partners. And also that it's mature. It's still an evolving technology, kind of like cloud technology was in the beginning, but it's growing and evolving along the way. So what does this mean for supply chain transparency to the hemp and CBD industry? So one, again, it's more auditable, it's valid, it provides integrity for your technology. So if you have a regulator come in or somebody conducting an audit, they're gonna have confidence in your information that it is what it is, what you say it is, or you're not going to change it the day before. It can deter fraud. If you have somebody on your team who maybe is worried about getting in trouble and they want to change things and they're not supposed to, well, now you can detect that. Additionally, if there's a discrepancy with a buyer or supplier, hey, you sold me X, but this is what we received, that can help validate that, as well as on the larger scale, as we start to scale and more people are using blockchain, are there imbalances? Is there only, and I'm going to make a number up, 1 million kilograms of CBD being sold that we know of, and yet 2 million are somehow in stores. So we start to aggregate data, can maybe provide some high-level insights into what's happening in the industry. So ultimately, this keeps you guys safe and secure. It also helps build trust with your buyers, which ultimately leads to increased trust with consumers. So how does this work as we look at data as it migrates from one step to another? Not too much of a different slide from the one we saw before, but all right, cultivation, what type of seed, soil, is it organic, location, type of test you may have, it's being transferred to harvest, post-harvest, extraction. All this data can migrate and stay connected in one system as it goes from one step to the other. But what's important is having the right technology that can easily capture this information, make it easy for your team in order to deliver it upstream, downstream. So I'm going to take a little bit closer look at that. Having an integrated system is really important, something that makes it easy for somebody at a farm. Now, you guys may be, we may have people on the call who are CBD brands. We may have people on the call who are hemp farmers, and you're just selling the biomass. And so you may want to look for, and this is something that our technology does, is we have 3 different components, right? We've got tag 1 harvest, which is going to be for the cultivators who want to capture that information at the farm level, some of the things we high-leveled before, so that way you can pass that on to somebody who's buying your biomass or processors. Tag 1 enterprise is the connect system, which is going to capture the lot numbers, all your suppliers, all your ingredients, your recipes, inventory. It's going to be able to track the information through the transformation all the way to your buyers and have that recall and return system built in. What it's also going to do is you're compiling all this information is be able to provide you some rich analytics. So something that is difficult to do in spreadsheets and Dropbox, what if you're putting in all the information from your COVs and you start to see an increase in THC levels from a certain seed you're using? Wouldn't it be good to say, you know what, we're seeing this increase over the last 6 months. We need to talk to our seed provider, or we've got multiple seeds. We might want to be concerned about this. Is it weather related, to catch challenges before they become a real problem? And then the third one, which is how can you connect and empower your buyers who can see the source, science, safety, and stories of your product using QR codes. If it's a B2B buyer, to be able to log in and see all the transactions in one centralized location. All right, so what we can see is using technology is going to help, again, reduce your risk, streamline your operations, and build that confidence in your buyers. So where do we do and where do we start? Oftentimes it's very overwhelming for companies to think about listen, we just are short on time. What do I do first? We're never going to get that full end-to-end transparency. And so most of you guys are already doing the right things, which is just capturing that high level data and information, starting in spreadsheets. Hey, who are all our suppliers? What are all our products? What are all our transactions? Who are all of our buyers? Having different codes for each of your products, tracking all your lot numbers and developing a lot number system. That is the basis and basics of what we call master data. And then of course, having a naming system for your document management, giving different permissions for your documents, and making it easy to receive from suppliers and share with buyers. And maybe you do that in Dropbox and give different permissions. The next step after that master data and document management fundamentals is when you go to a system. And usually companies that are ready for a system are GMP certified, organic certified, have some sort of ISO. You're putting everything, I mean, we had somebody who's putting everything in binders, right? But they're ready to go. They're like, we have our process down. Now are you ready to use a system? Now you can start entering that data into technology. This transaction came in, we're going to record it. This transaction went out, we're going to record it. And then it's all going to be digitized, adding all your documentation and connecting it with those transactions. Phase 3 is how do you get your suppliers and buyers to log into your technology, which is something Tag One does. With a limited view, they can only see what you give them permission to see. So that way they're starting to add in information and data. And on your behalf, it saves you from having to request it and upload it for them. And then now the next level is now they can invite their suppliers to upload data to their system, which of course goes to your system. And that will lead to the kind of seed to sale, farm to consumer, whatever you want to call it, end-to-end traceability, and ultimately engagement with consumers and buyers saying, now you know where this came from. So what does that look like from a technology perspective? So something that our platform Tag One does is give what we call our visual map, right? Pulls data out from the database or blockchain. It's going to show all your suppliers and their suppliers. You can click on it and see the lot numbers, when the transactions took place, where they're based. Click a little bit further down, you can see any expiration dates. Click further down, you can see the documents that are associated with that. So having all in that one centralized location as you're collecting information will save you a lot of time in the event there's an issue. And there always is an issue of some sort, or you want to find out, hey, this lot right here, where did it come from? So what else can an integrated supply chain do for you? One, it's going to give you, again, that end-to-end traceability, tracking transactions, inventory management, document management, ingredient quality, recall and return, and again, that trend analysis. So something I want to do real quick is show you guys, I don't know if I can see this, what I may do is pause and get back here. So we have a honey client, right? Be conscious, all natural, unadulterated. They source it from all over the world, kind of like the fine wine of honey globally. And they have our QR code on there. Hopefully you can see it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scan the QR code here. All right, so it pops up on my phone. And now we can see, should come up any second, get some different information here. All right, so the way we end this for you and your consumers by putting QR codes on your product. So let's take a quick look. I'm going to look on the traceability, get the map view. We can see they're based in Colorado, and they grow it in Brazil. All right, click the home button. We can also see their C of A. There's their digital C of A, as well as some cool honey facts they may want to give, and pictures and video. Social media connections, as well as some other information. You can put a video in there too. So ultimately that gives you guys the ability to engage with your consumers. More and more of our B2B buyers are doing this as well. If you're a wholesaler and you want to empower your retailers to do this, hey, here's a tool for you that's going to be something that's pretty cool and a little bit different. All right, so let me go back to the presentation. So here's just a visual of how that occurs. So ultimately, what's the cost of supply chain transparency? What does this mean for you guys? We talked about compliance. Compliance is a major challenge. Yes, you can be fined, right? But it's also time consuming, it's expensive. But more importantly, if you are not compliant ready, it will lead to recall and returns, which can absolutely crush you. Again, $200,000 is not out of the realm. There have been some that over $1 million can put you out of business. Having all this in line, we're talking to an insurance provider that this could possibly reduce your insurance premiums, your risk in premiums by up to 15%. That's something that hopefully we'll have some more information on in the next couple months. Having strategic agility and having value. As more and more companies want to go raise capital, who's going to be able to raise capital if they're looking at different ones? The ones that have sophisticated systems, that have ingredient traceability, is going to be big. There's already consolidation happening in the industry. How can you let people know, hey, listen, we've got the best product in the market and I can prove it? We talked about operational efficiency, which is reducing the amount of time that individuals have to spend pushing paperwork, sending emails, collecting stuff, preparing for audits. Running audits is extremely time consuming and ultimately is expensive. Supplier management, again, collecting CFAs, going through all that documentation, how can we make that easier? Managing all your inventory. But ultimately, what this also means, believe it or not, when you have a good system and you have a quality product and you can verify that, you're going to build brand loyalty. And one of our partners, an organization called Pure Branding, ran a study that said 78% of consumers either strongly agree or agree that they'll pay more for product transparency. And they'd be more inclined to buy from companies that have product transparency on things like labeling, safety, tests, science claims, sustainability, and knowing where their source is. This helps your sales team. This helps your sales team go out and pitch the message. So just some quick takeaways. Just remember, we're at a crossroads now as an industry. And that means it's time for us to continue to evolve and grow up. The opportunity for hemp as a supplement and as well as a food additive is absolutely huge. I think CBD is probably going to be one of the largest dietary supplements on the market very soon, if it isn't already. But this also means that the risks are high. We have the spotlight on us right now. So how we can integrate GMP and tech traceability and supply chain is absolutely critical in order for us to advance as an industry. But it all starts with the basics. If you guys are capturing some of this key information, that's great. Use technology when you can. If you're just a small company, start with spreadsheets. That's more than okay. And once you, as you start to grow and evolve, just remember, now people are going to know. They're going to know that your product is safe. They're going to know that the ingredients in the label actually match what you say, actually match what's inside. They're going to know that your claims are valid, and they're going to know where it comes from. They're going to trust you, and they're going to tell people about what you're doing. So that wraps it up. Now we can go to any questions. Let me see if we got any questions here. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? I'd be happy to address them. Just pop them in the question section or the chat section. We'll go from there. Chris, hey, thanks for the questions. As far as the pricing model, we're a SaaS platform, so it's a monthly fee. Basically, we'll talk to you guys and get a sense of how many products and ingredients do you have, how many active suppliers do you have, something we call like the complexity index. So the smaller you are, the simpler you are, the less expensive. We also want to take a look at which of our platforms you need. Do you need Harvest? Do you need Enterprise? Do you need Consumer Connect? Do you need all three? And be able to provide you a quote. If you want to reach out to me, of course, be happy to have a call. I could probably be the least salesy sales guy. Just happy to have a discussion and see how we can help you. Any other questions? I'm going to pause recording. Thank you, everybody. And you can reach me. I'm going to put my information, joe.whitty@tag1.com. And my cell is 215-359-8898. Good question, Justin. So basically we use Hyperledger Fabric, which you push it to a third-party system and they create the hash. And that's basically how the hash is created in a third-party system that we do not control or can't change.